Imagine, imagine breathing through a piece of thick black velvet for, 34 years.
Just completely suffocate.
Exactly. Your face is hidden, your identity has been just surgically extracted from the public record, and your jailer sits directly across the dinner table with 2 loaded flintlock pistols pointed right at your chest.
And he's fully authorized to just blow you away if you utter a single syllable about who you actually are.
It is terrifying. Welcome to Forgotten Mysteries Chronicles. I'm so glad you're here with us, joining us at the table as a fellow late-night researcher, because tonight's deep dive is, well, it's a heavy one.
Oh, absolutely. It's the ultimate cold case, really.
Yeah. We are looking at this mountain of centuries-old primary sources. We've got declassified royal letters, prison logs from the French Ministry of Defense, and archival intelligence reports. Basically, we are hunting for a ghost.
Right. And, the image of the man in the Iron Mask is so famous worldwide, it's completely subsumed by literature and myth. But the truth we found in these 17th century archives is just infinitely more sinister.
And deeply tragic.
Yeah.
It's way more terrifying than any fiction Alexandre Dumas or Voltaire ever penned.
Oh, without a doubt. Because when you strip away that romanticized myth of, royal twins and swashbuckling adventures, what you're left with is it's just the cold, methodical, bureaucratic machinery of the French state.
Yeah, orchestrating the absolute annihilation of a single human being.
Precisely. And our mission for this deep dive is to peel back all those lies and find the real flesh and blood man who endured that complete erasure.
So, to really understand the terror of this prisoner's existence, we have to start at the exact moment his life, as a human being anyway, just ended.
July 1669.
Right. And what fascinates me is that this doesn't start with a bang. It starts with paperwork.
It always does with bureaucracies.
Yeah. It's a letter from the absolute pinnacle of the French military-industrial complex at the time, a guy named the Marquis de Louvois.
Right. King Louis XIV's fearsome minister of war.
Exactly. So lay out this historical record for us. What does this letter actually say?
So Louvois isn't just some politician, right? He is the architect of the modern French army. And he writes this highly classified directive to a man named Benin de Saumar.
Samar. We're going to be talking about him a lot.
Oh, definitely. Saumar is the governor of the prison fortress of Pignerol, which is in the Italian Alps.
But it's under French control at the time.
Right. And it essentially functions as a black site for the crown. So Louvois writes to Saumar to announce the imminent arrival of a prisoner named Eustache Dogger.
But the mechanical detail of this document is what makes it so chilling.
Yes. The handwriting anomaly.
Historians who have physically examined this specific letter in the archives note this glaring inconsistency. Tell them about the handwriting.
It's wild. The name Eustache Dogger is written in completely different handwriting from the rest of the text.
That is the detail that genuinely makes the hair on my arms stand up.
It's so creepy.
It really is.
Yeah.
Think about the mechanics of a 17th century royal office. A minister like Louvois dictates dozens of letters a day to his clerks. The clerk writes the entire page, detailing all these horrific imprisonment instructions.
Right, but when it comes to the name...
Louvois stops the dictation, he likely dismisses the clerk, takes the quill himself, and physically writes the name Eustache Dogger into the blank space.
Which means the secret of who this man was so toxic, so corrosive, that Louvois couldn't even risk his top-tier security-cleared secretary seeing the name.
It is the definition of compartmentalized intelligence.
Exactly. And the instructions Louvois writes in that letter, they dictate this unprecedented level of confinement. He orders Saumar to prepare a highly specialized cell.
Yeah, this isn't just locking a door.
No. Louvois specifies the architecture. The cell requires multiple doors, one closing upon the other.
Like an airlock, almost.
Basically, yeah. It had to be engineered as an airtight, completely soundproof tomb within the fortress walls. The explicit mandate was that no one outside could ever hear him.
Not even the guards patrolling the corridor outside.
Exactly. If he desperately tried to cry out, it wouldn't matter.
Which means they had to do serious masonry work. They are spending vast amounts of state funds to re-engineer a stone fortress just for this one guy.
Yeah, the logistics alone are staggering.
It's the equivalent of being buried alive, but the state makes sure you keep breathing just to suffer. It's pure horror.
And it gets worse. Louvois' mandates go far beyond just the architecture. He dictates that Saumar, the governor himself, is the only human being allowed to interact with this prisoner.
Just once a day, right?
Right. Just to provide the bare necessities. And then, and this is the chilling fact, Louvois issues the ultimate directive. Samar was to explicitly threaten Dogger with immediate death if he spoke of anything other than his immediate needs.
I just have to pause there. I can't even fathom the psychological horror of that reality.
It's absolute sensory and social deprivation.
You are locked in a soundproof stone box. You don't see the sun, you don't hear a human voice, and the only interaction you have, once every 24 hours, comes with the promise of a summary execution if you utter the wrong vowel.
Yeah, it's unimaginable.
But, okay, here is the massive contradiction in the archives. This is the piece of the puzzle that makes zero logical sense to me.
The valet issue.
Yes, in that very same handwritten letter, Louvois downplays the prisoner.
Yeah.
He tells Saint-Mars not to worry too much about the budget for this guy because he is, quote, only a valet, a domestic servant.
Right. It is a staggering disconnect between the crime and the punishment.
Totally.
I mean, if we look at the mechanics of 17th century justice, it is brutal and it's efficient. If a servant commits a crime, theft, assault, whatever, the state executes them publicly, or they send them to die rowing in the galleys.
They don't build a custom soundproof cell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy does not expend its highest level resources, its top ministers, and its most secure black sites for someone who sweeps floors.
Right. So I have to fundamentally push back on this official narrative. I don't buy that he's just a lowly valet. Look at the logistics of how they actually brought him in.
The arrest is highly suspicious.
It's completely bizarre. The records show Dogger wasn't arrested by, like, local town constables. He was picked up near Calais by a military garrison commander, Captain Alexandre de Villeroy.
And Villeroy was stationed in Dunkirk, right?
Yes. And his superiors completely falsified his patrol logs. They claimed he was out hunting stray Spanish soldiers just to provide cover for his accents.
Wow.
So Villeroy takes an elite military escort, grabs this so-called valet, and conducts this covert cross-country rendition all the way down to the Italian Alps.
That is a highly coordinated military black ops extraction.
Exactly. You do not deploy a garrison commander and forge military logs for a guy whose job is fetching water.
No, you do that for a high-value target, and that paradox is exactly what fueled the extreme paranoia surrounding Dogger.
Which leads us directly to the man entrusted to keep him silent.
Yes, the jailer, Benin Dauvin de Saint-Mars.
Because if you're going to lock someone away like this, the jailer's life becomes inextricably linked to the prisoner's, right? For the next 3 decades, Saint-Mars is stuck with him.
Oh, completely. Saint-Mars' entire career becomes defined by this one guy. Let's really profile Saint-Mars. He's a former musketeer turned elite jailer.
Sort of a specialized warden for the state's biggest embarrassments?
Exactly. Pignerol was reserved for the absolute highest tier political prisoners. When Dogger arrives in 1669, Saint-Mars is guarding some heavyweights.
Like who?
Well, his primary charge is Nicolas Fouquet.
Oh, the finance guy.
Yeah, the former superintendent of finances. Essentially a billionaire embezzler who threw a party so lavish that it made King Louis XIV jealous, which got him arrested.
Classic absolute monarchy move.
Right. And then there's the Marquis de Lauzun, a wildly arrogant royal favorite who spectacularly insulted the king's mistress.
Okay, so picture the layout of this prison. You have a billionaire financial mastermind. You have a disgraced celebrity aristocrat.
Yeah.
And then you have Eustache, the valet.
It makes no sense.
It's a completely absurd grouping. And this highlights this bizarre contradiction in the documents. 17th century France was obsessively rigid about social rank, right?
Oh, absolutely. Social hierarchy was everything.
And that extended all the way to the bottom of the dungeon. Fouquet and Lauzun, because of their noble blood, are actually allowed to have their own servants inside Pignerol.
But Dogger is treated exactly like a servant.
Yes, he gets cheap, splintering furniture, terrible food, miserable living conditions. He's maintaining his lowly social rank, even in hell.
But then we hit the contradiction in 1672. Lauzun's personal servant falls ill. And Saint-Mars, who's just trying to find a logistical solution, writes to Louvois.
He suggests letting Dogger serve Lauzun.
Exactly. It makes sense. Dogger is a valet. Lauzun needs a valet. Let them share a cell.
But Louvois freaks out.
He strictly forbids it. He writes back that under no circumstances can Dogger serve Lauzun. He is terrified that the two might speak.
Which absolutely shatters the illusion that Dogger is just a servant. They don't care about his pedigree. They care entirely about what's in his head.
Right. They are terrified of his words.
Think about how hard it is to keep a secret in a normal office today. Now imagine keeping a man completely hidden and silent within a fortress full of guards and highly intelligent VIP prisoners.
He was bound to fail, and it nearly did.
Oh, the hole in the wall. This is a terrifying moment of near discovery.
It really is. So after Fouquet dies in 1680, Saint-Mars is auditing the cells. And hidden behind the masonry, he finds a secret tunnel.
Just bored straight through the thick stone walls.
Yes, it connected Fouquet's cell directly to Lauzun's.
Which means these two brilliant political minds have been secretly communicating this whole time.
Exactly. And Saint-Mars realizes with absolute panic that Lauzun might now know about Dogger's existence. The secret might be out.
Saint-Mars must have been sweating bullets. He sends an urgent report back to Paris, and to cover it up, Louvois orders Saint-Mars to execute this highly complex deception.
A fake release.
Yeah. He tells Saint-Mars to convince Lauzun that Dogger has been pardoned and sent home.
But the reality is so much darker. They secretly move Dogger to a terrifying new cell in the lower tower of the dungeon.
And they strip away his name completely.
Right. Louvois and Saint-Mars start referring to him only in code as one of the gentlemen of the lower tower.
That is just, it's sickening. It is sheer psychological cruelty.
Absolutely brutal.
You let a man rot in a box for 11 years. He survives a decade of absolute silence. And then, instead of freeing him, you orchestrate this elaborate cat-and-mouse game where the world thinks he's free while you actually bury him deeper underground.
It's the ultimate bureaucratic sanitization of human suffering. They reduce him to a geographic coordinate.
And things really shift when Lauzun is eventually released, don't they?
They do. With Fouquet dead and Lauzun gone, Saint-Mars loses his VIP prisoners. His entire prestige now relies on this mysterious gentleman of the lower tower.
Because a jailer's status depends on who he's guarding.
Exactly. And this desperation for relevance prompts a series of moves that literally gives birth to the legend.
So in 1681, they move to exiles. And then, in 1687, they journey to the island fortress of Sainte Marguerite.
Right, just off the coast of Caen. But let's detail that 1687 journey. It was a grueling 12-day trek across rugged mountain roads.
And how is he transported?
In a sedan chair. But Saint-Mars ensures it is completely covered by a heavy oilcloth. No one can see in.
But that means no air can get in, either.
Exactly. Dogger actually complains to Saint-Mars that he is suffocating, that he lacks air.
It's horrible. And it's during this specific move that the most famous piece of this mystery appears. The mask?
Right, but this is the major historical bombshell we have to drop here.
Sure.
There was no iron mask.
It blows my mind every time.
It completely dismantles the Dumas narrative. The mask wasn't iron. It was black velvet.
Which, honestly, I react to that with more horror than the iron mask.
Oh, really? Why?
Because an iron mask is like a medieval torture device. It's cartoonish.
No.
But a velvet mask,
Yeah.
that is deeply disturbing. It's an intimate, suffocating, form-fitting erasure of identity.
Wow, yeah, when you put it like that.
It's soft, but it turns a man into a faceless shadow. And he only wore it during transit, right? Or when crossing a courtyard to attend mass or see a doctor.
Exactly. It was tactical. But here's the thing. The historical consensus is that Saint-Mars forced the mask on Dogger not out of state security, but out of pure self-importance.
Wait, really? It was an ego thing?
Yes. By making a spectacle of his secret prisoner, Saint-Mars fueled rumors among the locals and his own guards. He wanted people to think he was guarding a fallen king or a royal duke.
So he weaponized this poor guy's anonymity for a PR stunt.
Pretty much. He hyped up a valet to make himself look indispensable.
That is deeply pathetic and incredibly cruel.
Well, his vanity campaign worked. In 1698, Saint-Mars is promoted to governor of the Bastille.
The most notorious prison in French history.
And he insists on taking his ancient prisoner with him.
This road trip to Paris gives us one of the most chilling, verified historical accounts of the whole story.
The stop at the country estate.
Yes. During the journey, they stop at Saint-Mars' country estate, Palteau. The local peasants obviously come out to look. And they reported seeing this masked man eating at a table with his back to the window.
So no one could even see the back of his head.
Right. And sitting directly across from him is Saint-Mars. And resting on the dining table, right by the plates, are two loaded flintlock pistols.
The implicit threat there is just. It's crystal clear.
30 years later, and the threat of summary execution is still active over a bowl of soup.
It's terrifying. So they arrive at the Bastille, and Dogger's locked away in the Bertaudière Tower. Decades of isolation culminate in this dark conclusion. On November 19th, 1703, after 34 years of solitary confinement and silence, he suddenly falls ill and dies.
34 years. It breaks my heart. And then comes the ultimate erasure. He is buried in the St. Paul Cemetery under a fake name.
Machele.
Just 34 years of psychological torture, only to have your real name stolen in death. It's a profound tragedy. But, the horrifying reality of a man erased in a velvet mask wasn't enough for history. Society had to invent grander, more romantic reasons for his suffering.
Oh, absolutely, the grand illusions.
Yeah.
Because a working-class guy being tortured by the state isn't a fun story.
Right. So let's talk about the royal blood and the fictional iron. Voltaire and Dumas.
So Voltaire, who was actually imprisoned in the Bastille himself later on, claimed in 1771 that the prisoner was Louis XIV's older, illegitimate brother.
And he's the one who first said the mask was iron.
Right. And then Alexander Dumas popularized the idea of an identical twin brother in his novel The Viscount of Bragelonne.
Which is a great story, but where did these rumors even come from?
Well, the historical context fueled them. King Louis XIII and Anne of Austria were notoriously childless for 23 years.
23 years of no heir.
Yeah, but then the king was caught in a massive storm in 1637. It forced him to take shelter and share the queen's bed at the Louvre. 9 months later, Louis XIV is miraculously born.
See, that timeline is just so convenient. It's no wonder conspiracy theorists invented secret firstborns or substitute fathers. Like maybe a grandson of Henry IV was smuggled in.
Right, but when you think about it, these theories are essentially 18th century true crime conspiracies.
Exactly. And I have to push back on this whole royal twin obsession. Why do we want him to be royalty so badly?
It reveals a really dark psychological truth. Society prefers to believe the prisoner was a king's twin because the alternative is simply too terrifying.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Think about it. If the state can do this to a complete nobody, a working-class valet, it means none of us are safe from absolute power.
That is chilling. Framing it as a royal clash makes it a tragedy for the elite. Accepting he was a servant makes it a horror story for the rest of us.
Exactly. So let's strip away the royal fan fiction. Let's look at the actual suspects that historians debated over the centuries, the false faces.
Okay, candidate number 1, Ercole Mattioli.
Right. He was an Italian diplomat who double-crossed Louis XIV over a secret treaty.
And his name, Mattioli, sounds exactly like the burial alias Marchioli. That's a pretty strong phonetic link.
It was the leading theory for a long time. Mattioli was held at Pignerol, but modern records show he likely died in 1694.
Wait, 1694, so years before the mask arrived at the Bastille.
Exactly. The timeline completely debunks him.
Okay, what about General Vivien de Boulogne? This one involves that crazy 1890 discovery of encrypted letters, right?
Yes. Etienne Bezeries cracked the Great Cipher and found a letter ordering Boulogne to be locked up with a mask for cowardice at the Siege of Cuneo in 1691.
That sounds like a smoking gun.
It does, but Boulogne's arrest was public, and he was actually released in 1691. He lived out his life and died in 1709.
6 years after the masked man died in the Bastille, so he's out too. Okay, what about the guy who actually shared the name? Eustache Docker de Cavoy.
He was a disgraced nobleman, a heavy drinker from a good family.
Makes sense. Rich families burying their problematic relatives was pretty common.
It was, but family letters proved he was held in a completely different prison, St. Lazare, and died in the late 1680s.
So generals, diplomats, aristocrats, they're all eliminated, which leaves us staring at the terrifying truth. The original name on that 1669 arrest warrant, Eustache Dogger, only a valet.
That's the modern historical consensus. He was a valet. But he wasn't dangerous for who he was dangerous for what he knew.
So what could a servant possibly know that justifies a 34-year Black Ops erasure?
Well, there are two leading historical theories. First is the financial theory. Dogger might have been a valet to Cardinal Mazarin's treasurer, a man named Picon.
And Mazarin was heavily involved in embezzling fortunes, right?
Massive fortunes. Specifically, money stolen from English royalty seeking refuge in France. If Dogger saw the ledgers and knew about this, it could have derailed crucial diplomatic alliances.
That would be a massive state secret. But what's the second theory?
The espionage theory. That Dogger was a valet connected to Henrietta of England, and that he stumbled upon a highly sensitive diplomatic secret right as Louis XIV and Charles II were secretly negotiating the Treaty of Dover.
The treaty against the Dutch.
Right. And it included secret clauses about Charles II converting to Catholicism.
I am expressing genuine horror right now at the bleakness of this reality.
It's awful.
A working-class man just walked into the wrong room, saw a document, or overheard a whispered conversation between royals.
Yeah.
And for that, he was subjected to 34 years of living death.
And, in 17th century France, a bullet would have been cheaper.
Much cheaper.
But perhaps Dogger's master was too important, or the secret too delicate to even risk a public execution. The inquiries would have been too risky, so he was locked away, as Louvois wrote, for what he was employed to do.
God, it's just, We can't ever wrap this mystery up neatly, can we?
No, the unresolved abyss of the past refuses to give up all its ghosts.
We might know his name was Eustache Dogger, but the specific secret he took to his grave remains lost to history.
Completely lost.
Well, it's time for our personal verdicts. We have to make a call based on the archives. I'll go first.
Let's hear it.
I lean toward the idea that he was Henrietta's valet, caught in the crossfire of international espionage. The Treaty of Dover was just too explosive.
I actually have to disagree slightly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe it was financial. The Mazarin embezzlement theory. If you look at history, money has always been a motive for ultimate cruelty. A financial scandal of that magnitude threatens the entire state treasury.
That's a fair point. Follow the money. But what about you listening at home? We want to hear your personal verdict. What secret do you think Dogger knew? Drop your theory down in the comments.
And please remember to like, subscribe, and come back tomorrow for another deep dive into the shadows of history.
Yes, you do not want to miss tomorrow's deep dive. I am so excited for this one. Captain Kidd Pirate or Patsy? The man who was hanged for a crime he may not have committed.
That is going to be a fantastic one.
It really is. Thank you for listening to Forgotten Mysteries Chronicles.
Until tomorrow, stay curious, stay skeptical, and never stop asking what really happened.
Until tomorrow, stay curious,
Yeah.
stay skeptical,
Yeah.
and never stop asking what really happened.